And I'm just going to make sure that we are live in the group. Okay, I'm here and I'm going to pull it up so I can see the comments. So I hope you guys can join us. I'm super excited. I have my client Teresa here with me. She has done such an incredible job in our time together, and I'm so excited to have her here to share her experience with you guys. So if you guys are here, say hey, let me know what you guys think. Let me know if you guys can relate, if you guys are picking up what she's putting down and you guys are excited to know like what is truly possible. Because when I first met Teresa, as she will share with you guys, she was in a position where she felt like she had tried a lot of different things, and meanwhile she recognized she had made some progress, there was still just a lot that she felt very stuck in and that she wasn't sure she was going to be able to get out of. So I'm excited to share her journey and what we learned together and what we were able to do together so far. So thank you so much for being here, Teresa. I'm so glad you're here with me.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah. So the first question that I wanted to ask, and I just want you to kind of, we've done this before, where I walked you down memory lane after we had learned a lot of our tools together. And so I kind of want to invite you to just kind of do that again. And I want you to think about like when we first met, like what was kind of going on, like what were some of the things that you were doing and trying, and where were you at in your healing journey, and like how were you kind of feeling, like what was the mindset, what was the mentality?
Well, my healing journey has definitely gone on for my whole life, but my conscious one, it's been a very difficult year. And so I think just right around the time that I was lucky enough to have found you, was a time when I had gone through intensive talk therapy, conventional medication, all the things you think you're supposed to be doing right. And but I still felt really stalled, stuck, and just kind of still had fear, disillusionment, and concern of just whether I was going to be able to make the change that I really wanted to. And then I stumbled into you.
Yeah. And I remember when we first started talking, you were telling me about how you had been doing this therapy and you'd been trying these things, and you had been trying to build a really positive, like ideas and like way of thinking and self-talk. But it just didn't feel real. Like I remember that conversation when we first met, after our reading and when we, had our consultation. And I remember you saying like, this is where I'm at, and it just feels like I'm like lying to myself. I don't actually mean any of this. And it's like, why? Like, I don't know why it's not working. I'm saying these affirmations, I'm doing like everything my therapist is telling me to do and what the internet that I can find is telling me to do. And it's just not like, something's like, is something wrong with me? Maybe I'm broken, right? And I remember you were really like scared of that. So I would love for you to share, because I think a lot of people could probably resonate with that. I know that I've talked to other, some of my other clients have came to me with that as well. And then just in general, meeting people. So what do you think, if you could, if there was anything like from my program that helped change that experience of not being able to like at this point, like we've experienced an actual shift from these tools, right? So what do you think would be the difference between maybe something like the general internet might tell you to do, or like modern or conventional therapy might tell you to do? Like, what do you think is the difference with the self-healing holistic approach that I take?
Well, I think the biggest difference is you have a partner. You have an instant community that opens you up to an even bigger community, to know that it's real. It's wonderful to have talk therapy. All those things are beneficial, and they give you, and not to discount that type of therapy in any way, but they just don't always give you the oomph, the roadmap, the let me help you get to the next step. They will give you, here's the universe, and that's wonderful. and give you a space to feel safe to express yourself, but to make change, to make the impetus to make that change is not necessarily where you don't find that in talk therapy. At least my experience did not. And also it's a little bit different. Your therapist is not necessarily going to help you with relatable real life experience, which you have. And it just gives you another level of safety to become more free, to experience those things, and to shift that it's not always focused on the negative, that even though the negative is there, you can shift it to the positive. And how can you do that? And that work is really important. Being able to express yourself safely, that's wonderful, but it's still a stepping stone in a lifetime of change.
Yeah. And I agree. I'm right there with you. Like, I think like therapy is great. Like, I tried therapy, like when I first started my healing journey, and she was lovely. She was, she was a safe space for me, but I got to a point where I'm like, okay, I'm not feeling better. And I inevitably got guided into like more holistic, like of the mind type of work, which is where I was able to learn how to where I was kind of guided. I don't know if I learned, but I was kind of guided to create the tools that I have in this program. And so and yes, like I felt the same way with my therapist. It's like, I think she had like the best intentions and she had education, but the experience, just the relatable experience just wasn't there. And I think that that's one of the bigger reasons why my clients get such good results, is just because I have felt the codependency. I have been in the middle of the people pleasing. I have been on the side of, I can't do this. I hate myself. Like I have had the whole bag, and and these exact tools are exactly what got me out of it. And I'm so confident in them and the way that I can make them customizable to you guys. It can, and then we have that relationship, we have that rapport, that relatability, and it just feels safe, like you're not going to be judged, right? Because that all of this stuff holds like shame and embarrassment, and it can be really hard to unpack all of that stuff. But when you've got someone who's been there, done that, and probably did it 3 or 4 times over, then it's easier to just be like, she gets it. Like she went through it. She knows how gross and weird it feels, and crazy, and annoying, and how hard it was. She gets it. Like she gets it. So it's easier to like allow yourself to step into the realm of possibilities when I can sit here and hold the mirror up to say, like, look, this is how I did it. Like, you might feel like it's not possible, but look, I kind of went through this similar thing, and this is how I did it. And then you're like, a whole new world is allowed to open up, because it's relatable, like you were saying. And yeah, I totally agree. I think that is the difference. Like you were saying, talk therapy, these conventional ways, it's not that they're bad or not useful. It's just sometimes they are that stepping stone. And sometimes when people are ready to like really have like a powerful shift, like you might have to find someone that has made. I worked with Tony Robbins, and he would always say all the time, like, proximity is power. If you want to be a movie star, you need to be around producers. You need to like put yourself in that area, the proximity of being around people. Or if you want to be like a financial advisor or whatever, you need to go to bank functions or whatever. You got to be in proximity. And if you want to truly heal and let go of those past things, like you've got to be in proximity with either like a community or a group who have done it, who have literally done it and have been able to show you the way and what's possible, so that you can make it happen. So yeah, I totally agree.
And I think we still live in a place, unfortunately, where, trauma and abuse, socially and medically, are not really fully understood or empathized or sympathized with. And I think that's a big component of guilt and shame that we all carry. And with this community, that shifts your thought process.
Yeah. And it's like, it starts to feel like, oh my God, I think more people are like me than they let on to be, right? Like it's all super normal. Like we're all humans, And then it really does it makes your world bigger, because then you start to see, oh my gosh, there's kids movies that relate to these things. Like it all makes sense. Like there's so many things, like these innuendos, or these small little like ideas of like, this was here all along, and people have so much fear around this topic. And it's so societal of us to just be like, oh, if you're not happy, like get into a relationship, buy a new house, purchase this, purchase that, do the drugs, have sex, whatever, like be busy, avoid it, take your mind off of it. And it's with good intentions, right? It's all from love, but it's just that band-aid. It's that band-aid effect, and it will always come back to the surface at some point or another. And some people can hide it more than others, or some people can manage it or dispose of it better than others. And then some people end up, it ruins their life for some reason, whether their emotions get the best of them, they end up in jail, or they end up in the wrong crowd, or whatever the case is. These emotions and these band-aid effects are taking away from people's lives, and we don't even, it's so unintentional, it's just so normalized, we don't even, it's so easy for us to not even recognize it. So yeah, I totally agree with that. So now that you have learned all the tools, I know we are continuing our journey and we're mastering things more. We're going into the next level. But now that you have really, started to understand like how to build this foundation with yourself and see things a little bit differently, what can you tell me a little bit of a difference? Like, what are some of the key differences that you are experiencing now with these tools under your belt?
Well, I definitely, with comedy, because I definitely still have my fun sarcasm in my wheelhouse, but I am learning to recognize and have much more positive conversations, self conversations, isolated by myself, and laugh a little bit more and become a little more lighthearted, even though it is still serious. But that's transforming how I speak to myself. And it's something that you don't hear a lot about. My internal conversation, my internal dialogue has always been pretty tough on myself. And it's not necessarily, me. It's all of those things that have, all of my experiences have formed me. But that doesn't mean that's my voice. And it has, some moments I don't notice it, but there are these huge aha moments where I'm like, oh, I've been speaking to myself very well. Like I'm tough, but I'm calm. And it really makes a huge difference now in my reactions to whatever is happening in my life. And yeah, it's very different. It's not it's not toxic positivity, as another keyword and something that I'm obviously concerned of because I overthink everything, but it's actual real hard work positivity speaking in my dialogues now. And it allows me to problem solve in a different way. Makes a big difference.
Yeah, and going into those problem solving, just some things that I want to acknowledge that I think you have noticed, because we've definitely talked about it, but I thought was worth acknowledging here is, I think your level of trust in yourself and your ability to express yourself and set boundaries have really come into fruition with all of this, just because I think that, you still had these moments when we first started working together of, is it going to be okay if I do what I need to do for myself? Like, is that safe? Right. But now it's like more and more each week, like we talk and you're like, yeah, I had this conversation, or I did this, or I did that, and I let this go, and I'm working towards this. And it's like, there's just so much. I don't know if you agree or if this resonates, but like your energy just feels free. Like, it's not like the process is over, right? Like, this is a process. This is work, right? We've gone through a lifelong trauma. Like we're on this journey of building a lifelong relationship to ourselves, because here's the thing, you don't just build your, relationship in one day and then it just stays there forever. Your relationship to yourself is no different than you taking care of your animals or your children or things of this nature, because, you have to feed them every day. You have to talk to them every day. You have to give them what they need every day. And the same goes for you. So this is an everyday for the rest of your life kind of thing.
Absolutely.
And,
It is learning how to take care of myself so I can take care of others is always going to be a struggle for me. And not feeling guilty about putting myself first not feeling like it's a selfish thing, because it's not. And it makes just makes a huge difference in obviously one's demeanor every day too, but having that like constant feeling of fear, really, real or not, dissipate has definitely made a huge. Fear is a prison, your own often, not always, but your own oftentimes, and letting that prison go does feel like freedom. It does. Yeah.
Yeah. And I love it. And, of course, when I do these interviews, people, I think it shows because I think so many people can understand, what we're talking about before. And I really hope that you guys are getting this like true transformation, like for the fact that you can even talk about this. Because I remember the first time we talked, like there was so much emotion. There was so much emotion built up. Like, I don't even think we got through the conversation without like the emotional overwhelm, like talking
No, not
about
at all.
the things.
Not at all.
Right. And even maybe the first couple of sessions, there were still like these emotions just like coming forward. But now it's like, you have so much like understanding and appreciation for like the journey and the process and how far you've come. And it just feels like, it's like, oh, well, it's not like perfect, but that's okay. It's perfect because it's the journey, right? We've aligned to the journey, not like some specific destination that maybe, could have caused a lot of suffering to begin with, right? So like, it's why I love to break things down into step-by-step processes, because it's all about the process of whether it's a tool or like if you go through a challenge, right? Like we were talking about it, I think earlier, like life is going to happen. Like it doesn't matter what it is, whether it's a breakup or we have to get a new job or whatever it is, like it's going to be uncomfortable. That's never going to go away. Like if we stopped being uncomfortable, we'd stop growing, right? But it's how we talk ourselves through it. It's how we guide ourselves through it. It's how we manage ourselves through it. And that comes from that foundation of the relationship with yourself. And it shows that your relationship with yourself has become such a solid foundation, because when we first met, there was such a lack of trust that you were going to be just fine, that you could do this, and now it's like, I'm not saying that it's not a worry or that it's gone forever, right? But it's definitely not something that we're necessarily talking about in our sessions anymore. That's for sure.
It's not the driving force.
Right.
The fear is not the driving force to move forward any longer. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's a huge shift. And I hope that people can really feel that. So I'd love to ask, what was something that you learned during our time together, or like what I like to know, like what are my, like out of the foundation of what we did, like what might have been your favorite like lesson or favorite thing that you learned to do for yourself?
One of the is that there's love and hate. It was one of the biggest challenges for me, but it was something that I was like, okay, this makes sense. Is that if I had a negative, it was to the challenge is to not replace it, but to have X amount of positives, way more than there are negatives, and to constantly shift it. It's not shifting positive to negative. It's showing that like there are always both. So it was a way to retrain the brain thoughts. And that's something that translates across everything. And that being a part of consistently with or without knowing, being a consistent part of what I was doing with myself every week after meeting you, it really showed a difference. And I think it showed a difference even to my small group in my world of loved ones, that I was even pushing it out towards them without even knowing, like, oh, well, let's think about this way. And so it became very much a part of how I've continued to move forward in my thought process. And so I recognize that being a huge shift for me. So even when something, lightly negative, a situation, comment, anything like that comes up, my brain starts to do what I call kind of, it's not really a balance, but it's some sort of offset so that I am not focusing on that negative. And it really does translate into everything now.
Yeah. And I love how you're expressing how, because it is one of a foundation, no matter what we're doing, like whether it's self-sabotage, whether it's, negative beliefs about ourselves or negative self-talk, whether it's needing to forgive someone, or whether it's, having to heal a certain emotion, the foundation is always, how is this trying to help us? Why is it trying to protect us? What are the positive intentions behind this? What's the message here? What's it want us to know? And when we look for that genuinely, we find so much love behind that uncomfortability that it doesn't make it like the greatest thing in the world. It just makes it like not an enemy. It's no longer our enemy.
Yeah.
It's no longer taking us down. It's not like we're super excited to feel like uncomfortable and scared or depressed or sad. Like, it's not like we're human. We're going to feel it. But now we know, like, sadness is here to protect us. Sadness is in anger and guilt and these things, like, they're here to guide us and make sure that we make the best decisions and keep us safe and cautious. And so it's not like that toxic positivity, like you're saying, yeah, no, it's great to be sad. No, it's like, no, it sucks. We can be honest here. It sucks to feel sad, but we're no longer crippled by it because we don't look at it like it's trying to kill us or ruin our life,
Absolutely.
right? Like,
and that's that fear. And when you're in that place, it's dark, and it's extremely lonely, and it has no light. There is none of that. And so being there is this, it's scary. And that's a place all of this hard work keeps you from. Life is not going to stop. Negative, bad things still happen, but the point is, it's so do good things, and life does stop sometimes, but that is also something that we just have to recognize and understand. And again, it's like, there are going to be negatives, but if there wasn't, then we wouldn't have the juxtaposition of the positive. And to just, life is extremely challenging to find any kind of balance, but just to having open dialogue in your own head about the positive and the negative, and how it's not necessarily so much about one thing or the other, but how we can balance between those to feel safe.
Yeah. And I love how you noticed that it was kind of a recurring theme in what we do. And it's the power of repetition. It is the power of repetition. The fact that I make you guys repeat it in many different scenarios, right? It is a foundation of all the tools, but all the tools are different. They teach you how to go through different challenges in different situations. And so you learn how to do it over and over again in many, many different ways and strategies. And like you're saying now, you are in the process of mastery because it's becoming an automatic thing. It's just who you are. It's translating into your relationships. It's translating into how you function and how you do it. And it's just becoming this natural way of how you go through life. And that makes you a powerhouse, because no matter what bad things come your way, you've got this ability to like, well, I know this really sucks. We can be honest, but like, what's really going on here? And like, how am I going to like move through it? Right. And that, to me, that's the greatest superpower anyone could ever have.
Yes.
Because you're just moving through life. Like you're moving through life with an ability to me, that's what makes successful people, right? Not successful people, it's not like they don't ever have fears or challenges or bad days. They manage it, they get through it, they're there for themselves, and they have the process to move forward and use it to their benefit, right? And that's exactly what this is. So it doesn't matter how you want to be successful. In my opinion, this is the foundation to any type of success in life.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I love that. Was there anything that you didn't expect from our time together to kind of happen that kind of came forward?
I mean, ultimately, and this is just, that's part of who I am. I didn't expect any of it. I didn't expect a positive outcome. I didn't expect a negative one either, but with where I was hopeful, but where I was, I just felt like I didn't think there was going to be a change for me. And so I think the biggest surprise is overall, I'm with you, still with you, and we're doing this right now. So yeah, and we're smiling, laughing.
Something happened, something shifted, it worked. Yeah. Like that's like boom, like I didn't expect
the
that.
whole thing, I guess is the whole thing is all I can say. Yeah. So, and by no means did I, especially at the time that we first met, did I feel like I was going to be, smiling and positively talking about this past year, let alone my life.
Yeah. And that's huge. And, and I mean, you had to have some faith, you had enough hope and faith to be like, okay. And I think it did help, right? Like, hey, I've been there. I had almost the same exact crap kind of happen to me. And you're like, all right, well, I've got to have enough faith to invest in this and to do this. Like this is got like something's got to give here. Yeah. And I don't know if it's because we connected and related so well. Like it was the space, it was the capacity needed for you to truly like surrender to like let all of this happen. Because here's the thing, it doesn't matter how great I think my tools are. If you're not ready to surrender to like absorb them, you could have just breezed by this program and did none of the work, and you wouldn't be any different. So it might have been like, I might have been holding your hand, I might have been guiding you through it, but you had to do it. There is a huge level, and I love how we mentioned this in the description, there's a huge level of taking accountability. Whether you're working with a therapist or a life coach, or it doesn't matter, like they can't do it for you. And anyone trying to tell you that they can, they're lying, right? Like I can hold your hand and I can show you exactly how to do it. But if you won't even allow yourself to be open or surrender enough to do it, then it's gonna go in one ear and out the other, and it's not gonna give you what you need, right? Like and that's why I believe like my clients who do come with me, like they're extremely divinely meant to be, because it's just
absolutely timing, universe, everything comes together without a doubt for a reason.
Yes.
Good or bad. This one was good.
Good. I'm so glad I'm on the good side. I'm so glad that this experience is like, this is a great thing. This is a great thing. So if you met someone right now that was in Teresa's shoes about 5-6 months ago, right? Is there any tips, or is there anything you wish you could tell 5 or 6 months ago version of you, that for some people that might relate to it? Is there anything, like if there's maybe 1 or 2 things that you think would have just helped you the most, what might it be?
Well, and this is a tough one, but at that time period, to not believe yourself for a little while. We're trained to, but oftentimes we are our worst enemies. Like we'll make up things that don't even really exist, because we're tough on ourselves. But it's a difficult one. So even when you're in the place, like I realized, like, trust your gut. I didn't I had lost that. And I'm glad I did, because my gut brought me to you. But there were some times I really had to tell myself to not believe myself for a while, and fight for that a little bit. And that's scary, but I think that's also something to recognize. There are times when you're not right. And that's okay. And that's okay.
No, and I think that that's huge. Like, it was so funny that you said it the way that you said it, because like you're like, don't believe yourself. And I was like, did you just tell people not to believe in themselves? And then I instantly, when you kept talking, I understood. I was like, oh, like when you're telling yourself how much you suck and how much you can't do it and it's not going to work, don't believe it. Do not believe it. Fight for that. Fight for, like, no, we have to have faith.
In that
hold
negative
on.
place, don't do it. Because it's life is not true.
It is not true, and you don't need to believe it. And right. I'm so glad you've got to this point, because I feel like had I told you that, like when we first got together, you might have been like, yeah, you're dumb, like you might have looked at me like I definitely would have been like, whatever.
Yep. I was whatevering myself, so it's definitely whatevering anybody else. Yeah. But it's the hardest thing, I think, but because it's one of the things that can keep you down even further. You yourself are extremely strong in your mind, and so what you think is what you believe, and sometimes it's not true. It's just not true.
Yeah. No,
so yeah,
100%.
in my own little weird way, like the strange, sometimes you don't believe yourself. Always believe in yourself, but don't always believe yourself.
Yeah, I get it. Like, I love that. And I think people, I think like that was such a unique way of like saying it. Like, but I think like, I know that as soon as I got what you were trying to say, like it made so much sense. And I was like, yes, that's it. Like, so I think so many people would enjoy that like frame of mind and just thinking. So I hope you guys really enjoyed hearing, Teresa's journey, and hopefully you guys got some good insights from this. I know that this was awesome, and I'm so glad like that she made it through. She allowed herself to be open enough to go through this process and to truly do the work. Like, I might have been here mentoring her through it, but we're only here together once a week, like she has to do this every other day, all the other times, and she has to get through the day to day. And she did that, so let's give her some praise. And if you guys have any questions, or if you guys want to share anything that you might have related to or that was helpful, I'd love to hear the feedback in the comments and hear from you guys. But I think that that's all the questions that I have. And I love your tip that you wanted to share. And I love this. And I'm just so thankful that like, this is the most beautiful part about these interviews that I do is I feel like it's just so encouraging and empowering for my clients to go from a place of like not feeling capable to now feeling so capable and like confident in what they learn, that they have even any insights or tips to share. And because I just want to show you guys, this is why I do this. Like, if I can do it, Teresa can do it. If Teresa can do it, you can do it. Like, we both didn't believe in ourselves, and we were very hard on ourselves. And if any of you guys can relate to that, like, we were just like you, and there is another side. There is another side that it's possible to obtain. So, and that's the main thing I want you guys to take away from this is it doesn't matter who you are, where you live. We don't live in the same state. We're not, like I have clients all around the world, like they're doing it. We're all doing it. We can all do it. It doesn't matter who you are, where you are, or what you've experienced. There is another side to the pain. And sometimes the only way through is through, but it's worth it when you find someone that can help you dissect that and show you what you're capable of. So thank you again, Teresa. I'm so glad you were able to do this with me. This is awesome. And it'll be in the group, so you can check it out, or if you want to comment and reply if we get any love, you're welcome to do so. So I'll tag you in it, and I will see you guys later. And Teresa, you are good to go. I will see you later too. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. I hope you
You
guys
too.
all have a wonderful week, and I'll see you guys next time.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.